Hey everyone, it is Wednesday, July 5th. The time right now is 5:47 p.m. and the temperatures are rather hot, 31 degrees Celsius. And that was Dundas Station I just climbed out of. And this is where else but Yonge and Dundas Square, or at least that's it across the street. This is the intersection of Yonge and Dundas. An area you are no doubt familiar with if you're a regular viewer of the channel. But for this one, I'm going to be heading south a few blocks down to Shuter Street, and then I'll be walking east along the entire length of Shuter Street. And that's about 2 kilometers in length. And then I think I'll head south down to where the Humane Society is, around Queen and River. It looks like they might be setting up for a big event this weekend here at the square. I was last through here on Canada Day. And there's the Eaton Center across the street. And at 31 degrees, this is one of the hottest days we've had in quite a while. And this one will take us through what Google says is one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the city. At least if you Google, is Moss Park dangerous? So they'll say yes, or something to that effect. I'll be walking through Moss Park and then Regent Park. A couple of areas known for their public housing apartments. And this next street straight ahead is Shuter Street.
Yep. That's what the mall's called.
So this is where Shuter terminates to the west, right at the Eaton Center. So I'm walking east along the north side of Shuter. And there's Massey Hall across the street. That's a performance venue that opened back in 1894. And it was closed between 2018 towards the end of 2021. Undergoing a rather extensive renovation to the tune of $184 million. There's a look up O'Keefe Lane.
Yeah. No, Danny.
And Fran's Diner on the left. In the base of the Pantages Tower, named after the theater that formerly went by the name Pantages, which later became the Cannon and now the Ed Mirvish Theater. That show back in November of 2021. It's actually taking place just as I was recording. That was a Gordon Lightfoot concert, the late Gordon Lightfoot. And this is Victoria Street. We'll be walking by St. Michael's Hospital. That's the emergency ward. I think this is the only major hospital on the east side of downtown, as we are east of Yonge. I can think of several on the west side. 4 right on University Avenue. And there's Toronto Leicester, which I guess counts as downtown. But this hospital on the left dates back to 1892, although it's obviously been expanded and renovated several times since. It looks like another expansion has taken place. This here is Bond Street. And on the left is St. Michael's Cathedral Basilica. And that church dates back to 1848. I think that's where the hospital takes its name from. That's the Metropolitan United Church just south of it. And there is a ton of development going up on the east side of downtown. Well, pretty much all of Toronto, but particularly around this area. There's the backside of that other church. And it looks like I'm not going to catch the signal here at Church Street. And a look to the north. So this area I'm in is referred to as the Garden District, named after the Allen Gardens. Located on the northeast corner of this neighborhood. And Henry's used to be located further south of here. Canada's greatest camera store. That place has quite the following. They moved into this spot last year, if I'm not mistaken. Mast Coffee. There's an interesting view to the south. Towers, St. James Cathedral. What have we come across here? The Cooper and Gillespie houses. These date back to 1850. So I guess throughout the 80s and 90s, people would have said this is a rougher part of town. Although, as you can see, it's gentrifying, and all sorts of new condos are going in. This is Mutual Street. One bedroom. They have a bed plus a den, 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom from the 700,000s. That is nuts. And once I pass Jarvis Street, we'll be entering Moss Park. So I think you'll notice the crowds on the sidewalk thinning out considerably from this point on. Although this part of Moss Park is still within the Garden District. You can't really see that. Traffic sign there that has the countdown timer on it. But Moss Park is located between Jarvis, which I just crossed to the west, and Parliament to the east. Shuter Street to the north, which is where I am, and Queen Street to the south. There's a city sightseeing bus on Shuter. Probably looping its way back from St. Lawrence neighborhood. And there we have the Moss Park Armory across the street. That was constructed in the 1960s. That houses several reserve units of the Canadian Forces. Right next to Moss Park itself, which during the pandemic was basically a large encampment. And this is George Street. There's people playing tennis. Looks like there might be a softball game going on later on. And some gorgeous homes on the left. Although the south side of the park is closed, there's a lot of construction going in, and they're going to be putting in a subway station there just south of here at Sherbourne and Queen. One of the most notorious intersections in the city, probably the most. And this is Pembroke Street, so I believe this is where the Ken Continuum lives, although that's well north of here. He lives closer to the Allen Gardens themselves. And you'll notice Shuter Street here has protected bike lanes. These were just the vanilla painted bike lane special that Toronto has had for the longest time, but in 2020 it was upgraded to a proper cycle track. And this is kind of the bare minimum they could do to give it cycle track status, just including these curbs here. There has to be an actual physical barrier between motorists and cyclists to get that distinction. So just south of here is Queen and Sherbourne, and there's another kind of notorious intersection north of here, Dundas and Sherbourne. And Sherbourne Street is an excellent bike lane as well. Or rather, bike lanes. Those apartment buildings over on the right are the Moss Park Apartments. And in the 1960s, several blocks were demolished and cleared out to build those apartment buildings. And they were built by the city as public housing units, and they still serve that purpose to this day. Also, directly south of here, on Queen Street, is where Kim's Convenience is. And the Distillery District is well south of here. This is Seaton Street. It's amazing how 10 years ago, most of those condos you see would not be in the picture. And the same goes looking back to the west. There's a lot of older 1800s Victorian style homes in this area, as Cabbagetown used to extend this far. Aw. Stolen Dog, Sherbourne and Dundas. Sad stuff. And this is Ontario Street, which I believe was interrupted by construction of Moss Park. Man, I better remember. Let's take those sneezes out of the video. I did a walk down Ontario Street a few years ago on the channel. So the next street will be Parliament Street. And I'll be in the Regent Park neighborhood. And this is Berkeley Street, another street that I believe was severed by the Moss Park apartment development. As that continues south of here, and there's going to be an Ontario line station south of here at King and Berkeley. Maybe I'll cross to the south side here. So this is Regent Park. And Regent Park is between Parliament Street to the west and the Don River, which is in the direction I'm walking to the east. And this was built as a large public housing complex as well, although it is currently undergoing a 5-phase redevelopment into mixed-use housing. A lot of the older brown brick apartment buildings have already been cleared out, and it's currently in phase 3 of 5. I've been meaning to come here and do a dedicated walk around Regent Park. It's been a while. But most of those apartments, I think all of them actually, were on the north side. That is Regent Street. There's some older worker-style cottages on the right. This area just to the right and south of here is Corktown as well. There's often overlapping neighborhood names in Toronto. Traditionally a blue-collar neighborhood. This is Tracy Street, so it is not a laneway. That one gets a street designation. But if it seems quiet, I've never seen this area busier than this, to be honest. It's a bit of a sleepier part of downtown, although they've added a considerable amount of density to Regent Park. There's a similar redevelopment going on at Alexandra Park, which actually is a similar story to Regent Park. Started as a public housing area, and in time with the flight to the suburbs, they were unable to attract a lot of the sort of young professionals and white-collar workers. I wouldn't say it devolved into a slum status, although that word has been used to describe what Regent Park used to be like. And on the left, well, that is the Regent Park Community Center. That is Nelson Mandela Park Public School. And that one dates back to 1853, although I think this front is mostly just a facade. I think the real entrance is behind it now. They've expanded and redeveloped the school quite extensively. Well, it dates back to 1853, but this structure goes back to 1917. It was renamed after Nelson Mandela in 2001. You can see a lot of these homes are more of the Victorian style homes you see in Cabbagetown. But a lot of the homes had fallen into such a state of disrepair. I think in the 40s and 50s, the city decided a big public housing development would be appropriate. That's how Regent Park took shape. And it's only recently it's been redeveloped into a mixed income use neighborhood. And I'm about to walk by one of the first new components of that, the athletic field. And maybe I'll cross over to the other side of the street at Sumac here. There's a big outdoor hockey rink. Potential meet cute taking place. Some basketball hoops. And north of here, north of Dundas Street, is Regent Park itself, and there's a big indoor swimming pool there, as well as a public park. And these are considered mixed income condominiums, so a lot of the residents that were here in the public housing units were temporarily displaced and then offered units at comparable rents in the newer buildings. Apparently they lost some of the unit size, but they gained a much cleaner, or at least more modern space. It's probably a fair trade-off. And this is River Street coming up, the most eastern major north-south street in downtown, unless you count Bayview Avenue, which I guess you would, since Bayview is on the west side of the Don River. But River Street also has a cycle track, and much like the one on Shuter, this was upgraded in some stretches back in 2020, although I don't know if it's actually officially classified as a cycle track, because there's only small sections where it's curb protected. But either way, I'm going to head south down River Street here and hopefully not find myself having a conversation with this guy. We're going to walk south down to where Queen and King are. As soon as we get the light. There we go. So that was all 1.9 to 2 kilometers of Shuter Street. There's an ad for the Underpass Park Farmers Market, which is just to the south of here. That's a housing co-op, the TTC Dundas housing co-op. the Home Birth Center Hospital, established in 1994, RiverdaleMidwives.com. Wascana Avenue. And just there on the left is the Toronto Humane Society, right next to a building that used to occupy Queen City Vinegar Company Limited. And a rare beer store. I don't have one of these in my neighborhood. I have to go to an LCBO. But I've often been asked what my favorite charities are in the city, or if I was to make a donation, and this place would be right near the top of the list. They do excellent work there. And this is Queen Street East. Bus is only going to Broadview and Gerrard. But I think what I'll do is I'll hop on a King Street vehicle here and maybe head back to King Station. Head back up to Midtown. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed this one, walking along Shuter Street, across downtown. Finishing up here at King and Lower River Street. I'm actually going to go get a snack at that Timmy's. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. If you wish to support the channel, there's links to my Patreon and YouTube channel membership down in the description. I have an Instagram account, which I seldom update, as well, at Johnny Strides, and there is a super thanks button appearing below these videos if you wish to say thanks that way. So I'm going to go spoil my dinner with an iced latte and a muffin, maybe. Anywho, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Yoink.